the opposite direction. Again, if you experience a period of calm weather and winds in the next couple hours, you are in the eye of this Typhoon Bolaven. So we're looking at a pass very near Rota or just to the north of the island. So stay tuned for that. That will be coming your way in the next couple hours. As of the 1 o'clock advisory number 13, a typhoon warning remains in effect for the island of Rota, Tinian, and Saipan, and a tropical storm warning remains in effect for Guam. That storm was located about 14 degrees north, 146 degrees east. It was moving, according to the JTWC, to the northwest at 15 miles per hour. However, that distance and that speed and that direction, that's based on a 6-hourly average, but tracking the radar over the last couple of hours, it looks like it's more of a west-northwestward motion, and it may be slowing down just a little bit. So we are watching those trends in the Doppler weather radar here from Guam for implications for a little bit longer duration over the island of Rota. Brandon's going to go into more detail about that and what we can expect with that. But at that 1 o'clock advisory, that was located about 50 miles east-southeast of Rota, 75 miles south-southeast of Tinian, and 80 miles south-southeast of Saipan. For Guam, that was 90 miles to the east-northeast. The likelihood of a direct passage over or near Guam is not likely at this time. That is good news for folks on Guam. Based on this current advisory, it was moving west-northwest and is expected to make a slight turn eventually toward the northwest and then eventually to the north over the next several days once it gets well outside of our area. But the typhoon force winds, they extend outward from the center up to 35 miles. So if you're within 35 miles of this typhoon center, you will feel those typhoon force winds. That specifically means Rota. Those tropical storm force winds extend outward from the center up to 140 miles. So that includes everyone in the Mariana Islands. This latest forecast track does show that passage right through the islands. I'm going to shift the screen up just a little bit. There we go. So this is where we sit as of 1 o'clock this afternoon with Guam, Rota, Tinian, and Saipan. Let me change this opacity right there so we can see the islands a little bit better. There we go. So we can see where the islands are located. This is the 1 o'clock advisory showing that forecast. This is going to be a little bit different if this typhoon shifts just a little bit to the west of the current forecast track. And we're going to do that hour by hour play. We had a lot of feedback about that. This resonated well with people. So we want to show you these hour by hour wind fields. This is at 1 o'clock this afternoon, this tropical storm force damaging winds across Guam and all the islands. Those destructive, severe tropical storm force winds are over the island of Rota. This is looking at 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m. Those winds are creeping in, but we think based on radar indications, these typhoon force winds are going to be a little bit closer to Rota. So we're going to be watching that closely. Any reports from folks at Rota, the Emergency Operations Center in Rota, we much appreciate that information. And so clicking on through, these tropical storm force winds now envelop all of Guam with this latest forecast track. So this is the sign of one of those wiggles we've been talking about for several days now. Those wiggles matter. And so this is what we're seeing. Those tropical storm force winds will linger across Guam for at least most of the afternoon and into the evening hours, starting to pull away overnight. So these damaging tropical storm force winds will stay in place over Guam through probably midnight tonight before they finally pull away. Those winds will linger across Rota, Tinian, and Saipan until probably around just before sunrise Wednesday. So again, peak conditions coming up. What you're seeing right now across the region, that will only worsen, particularly for Rota. We're going to be holding near peak intensities for Tinian and Saipan. What you're seeing now is going to probably persist for a couple more hours. Rota and Guam, we are in the midst of a lot of rainfall. We do have a flash flood warning in effect. That's in effect for Guam, until 4:15. So forecasters here at the Operations Center, they put out a flash flood warning for these heavy bands of showers just coming down across Guam. So we've had several inches recorded. If you're seeing flooding at your home and your villages, please let us know, chat that in the window. But we're seeing these rain bands just spinning around. Here's the island of Rota. Let me flip that the back right quick. There we go. So if we see these, this is the eye coming towards Rota. These rain bands are spiraling in, and they're training over Guam at this time. So you're going to be seeing periods of torrential showers over the next probably 3, 4, 5, or 6 hours this afternoon. So that flash flood warning is in effect for Guam until 4:15 this afternoon. Rainfall rates upwards of 1.5 to 2 inches in an hour. So those rainfall rates are key because the ground just cannot handle that heavy of rainfall. So as it's coming down, a lot of this water is going to runoff. It's flowing across the grass, flooding the streets, so you do not want to be driving in these conditions. Flash flooding is ongoing or is expected to begin shortly. Flash flooding of small creeks, streams, urban areas, highways, and streets, as well as other poor drainage and low-lying areas is ongoing or will likely begin soon as these showers continue across Guam over the next several hours. That's going to be most of this afternoon, so please stay in safe shelter. Do not venture out. If you happen to be driving, turn around, don't drown. You do not want to get into a situation because rescue personnel may not be responding for a while. Flooding is occurring or imminent. A flood watch also remains in effect for Guam, Rota, Tinian, and Saipan through Wednesday afternoon. Excessive runoff may result in flooding of rivers, creeks, streams, and other low-lying and flood-prone locations. Streams may rise out of their banks. Flash flooding may occur in poor drainage areas, and we will be issuing those flash flood warnings accordingly as conditions warrant. I'm going to turn this over to Brandon, who's going to talk really about the storm environment.
Yes, and so definitely want to point out a couple of things. The center of Bolaven is getting much closer to Rota, and so with that, we've really been keeping a track. We've been issuing tropical cyclone updates every hour, roughly, identifying where the position of the center of the storm is. And so there's a couple of lines I want to really highlight to you. One is the latest forecast track from Joint Typhoon Warning Center. So this is that average 6-hour motion per forecast update. However, what is interesting is this little stair-step pattern that the center of Bolaven has been making the past several hours. So there are the bobbles. And so which way does it go from here? Does it continue to work on a northwest path or west-northwest? This is why we do have that typhoon warning in effect for Rota. So those are the concerns. That is what we're watching out for. And so basically don't let your guard down until this system is to the west of the islands. Now looking at some of the radar indicated velocities. So this is a Doppler velocity product. We have been seeing some impressive winds, and the latest radar update from Patrick Dahl and Ken Clishelty, our lead forecasters on duty, we are identifying some 86 mile per hour, 75 knot winds inbound coming in just to the northwest of the center of Bolaven. And so this is about 6,500 feet above the ocean surface. When we have these heavy torrential rains, those winds will be mixed down to the surface. So that is where we see those really strong gusts with tropical cyclones in general. And so that is a concern. Additionally, we do have those outbound strong winds to the south of the center. And so as we have these heavy rain bands come across Guam, we're also going to see some of those strong gusts. Perhaps not as strong as what Rota will be seeing, but still strong, damaging nonetheless. Farther north across Tinian and Saipan, there's not as much rainfall. You're going to see some heavy rains coming through, but perhaps not as extensive and continuous as what we're going to see farther to the south. And so moving on ahead, the bird's eye view satellite imagery, you can definitely see we still don't have an identifiable eye in the visible satellite imagery. So that kind of speaks to the nature that Typhoon Bolaven is still trying to get its act together. We do have an identifiable eye in the radar imagery, but not in the satellite. So there's still some dynamics at play. Bolaven is still trying to get its act together, but that potential for steady intensification is still there, and especially as we head into the nighttime hours and into tomorrow as it moves away. The Japanese Meteorological Agency, they have now switched their target area to Typhoon Bolaven. They were tracking Tropical Cyclone 14W, Koinu, down off of near Hong Kong, but that has since dissipated on shore. So now we are getting this 2-minute imagery right over Typhoon Bolaven. And so we can see the whites are indicating the very high up cold cloud tops where we see some of those bursts of lightning. And so that is one of the things we're going to be watching for. We've not seen a whole lot of lightning the past couple of hours, but that is one of the things that is indicative, often indicative of intensification.
All right, we're going to hop right over here to talk about the hydrology of the situation. As Brandon gives his microphone to Patrick over here, we're going to talk about the rainfall situation. But yeah, thank you for the reports. I saw a report coming from Saipan, from Glenn over there. Windy, but not too much rain yet. That has been the case that we're seeing here in the satellite and radar imagery. So, Patrick, tell us what you're seeing.
Well, similar to what Brandon was saying, showing the radar loop, this is a precip estimate of what our Doppler radar is seeing. And as you could see in some of these yellows, it's 2.5 to 3 inches, but the darker blues and lighter blues are 1.8 to 2.5 inches an hour. Now, when I issued the flash flood warning earlier, we had one of those bands swinging down, pivoting across Dededo, Jigo, and Anderson Air Force Base. And looking at some of the rain gauge reports, up in Jigo, one of the home weather sensors recorded 2.88 inches. 1.9 inches of that fell in about 30 minutes. So, these showers can put down 2 to 3 inches an hour. A lot of the island has seen 1.5 to 3 inch an hour rain rates. We're seeing that on home weather stations, USGS gauges, and we are seeing river rises, especially down near Agate, like the Almagosa River, for instance. Down there in the train, it's going to be a little bit more flashy due to the runoff, but also in poor drainage areas. So, this system has water values, precipitable water values near 3 inches an hour. You get a good shower or band over you could get at least 2 of those in a half an hour. And that's the reason we are putting out flood warnings for several hours, 3 hours in this case, versus 1, because to try to pin down any of these bands at any given time would be futile. There's just too many coming in.
So we see a big plume of moisture, I guess, right here on the radar and the satellite screen. Is any of that going to make it up to Saipan and Tinian? Because right now it looks like it's fairly dry and the reports are supporting that. Can they expect to see a burst of rainfall with this system?
As the system goes by to the northwest, yes, this is actually infrared cloud top imagery, so we could see the colder cloud tops. But to give you an idea on atmospheric moisture, and I'll loop this and zoom in. Here we are in our neck of the woods, and these whites, you can see how it's just pivoting around. Let's slow down that loop speed some, or we could just stair step through. So you could see how everything's just pinwheeling around the center, and where you're getting those whites, you're seeing pretty intense rainfall rates, or water values approaching 5 inches of precipitable water. Now, a lot of times the satellite will overestimate this in the eye wall, and that's probably what's going on here. More realistically under it, you're probably getting closer to 3 to 4 inches, but that's just a good example. It could come down and flood the roads real quickly.
All right, thank you very much for that information, Patrick. And while Brandon's going over to Ken, I just want to pan the room. Malcolm over there and Joshua in the corner. Wave, Joshua, thank you. We have a full house today, last night, and the last couple days. We have a lot of staff in here. Dan, new to the office from the United States. What state are you from, Dan? Nevada. And Edwin, we have a lot of new people here just in the last couple of years. Edwin's watching our social media right now. We're going to hop right over here to Ken, who's watching the forecast for western Mike, we need you to talk about the monsoon situation over there. Ken, what can you tell us about that?
Okay, for the monsoon situation for Yap and Palau, for the rest of today, it looks like we got a little bit of a downward trend in showers for right now, but they are going to increase later on this evening. Again, we're looking at numerous showers with locally heavy rainfall possible through the night. The monsoon surge is going to stay strong throughout at least the next week. The good thing for Palau is going to be just south of the main part of the surge. So it looks like you may get a dry period from about midweek through the end of the week, about probably Thursday through Friday into Saturday before you start seeing some more showers move in. But Yap will stay wet throughout the period. Also, Palau can expect to see stronger winds, breezy to windy conditions through tomorrow afternoon, possibly evening. While Yap, I'm looking at extending this small craft advisory for Yap through Thursday, along with a high surf advisory through Thursday.
So for folks that are maybe asking or calling the Weather Service offices in Palau and Yap, is there a storm coming?
No, there is not going to be a typhoon in Yap and Palau. This is mainly going to be the things feeding and the monsoon feeding into Bolaven.
All right, so that's good news for folks watching us in Palau and Yap. There is not a tropical storm or a typhoon coming to the islands there. So rest assured, it's just a classic monsoon surge that you're experiencing over there. Edwin, talk to us about Guam and the CNMI.
All right, just want to give an update on the forecast. So as of around 30 minutes ago, we do have a high surf warning in effect until later in the evening on Wednesday for east-facing reefs of the Marianas. We do have dangerously large breaking waves of 16 to 20 feet in the surf zone. Coastal inundation up to 7 feet expected at Rota, 5 to 7 feet at Tinian and Saipan, and 2 to 3 feet at Guam. Moving on, the current forecast for the winds. As the typhoon warning still continues to be in effect for Tinian and Saipan, typhoon force winds of east coming from the east to the southeast of 75 to 80 miles per hour with gusts to 90 miles per hour possible are still expected today. Torrential rain, frequently locally heavy showers, and isolated thunderstorms. Moving on to Rota, typhoon force winds are expected as well. Southwest west winds 80 to 90 miles per hour with gusts to 120 miles per hour in the evening, backing to the southeast at between 50 and 70 miles per hour with gusts to 90 miles per hour still possible after midnight.
All right, thank you very much, Edwin. We're going to toss over to Brandon right quick. We're going to talk about the webpage. We've had some questions about our webpage, where to find our information, because typically we have a pink banner on our homepage that highlights where to find the tropical cyclone information. So that has been under a technical glitch. So Brandon's going to show you where to find that information on our webpage before we wrap this up.
And just to kind of do a recap real quick of some of the rainfall, the northern part of Guam, Geomag near Retidian Turnoff, Mount Santa Rosa, and Dedado, we've seen some impressive rainfall amounts the past few hours with rainfall amounts exceeding nearly 2 to 3 inches in the past 3 hours. So that is definitely going to lead to some standing water on the roads. Another question I saw in the comment section, how close is it to the islands? Right now, Bolaven is about 70 miles east-northeast of the Guam radar. 70 miles east-northeast. For Rota Airport, 35 miles to the east-southeast. For the Tinian Airport, that's about 70 miles south of the Tinian Airport, and then for the Saipan Airport, about 75 miles south. And then we're going to switch over to the webpage. Landon, if you want to just get a close-in view, this is what our webpage looks like, weather.gov/GUM. You navigate to this page, and you will see a map of the Marianas. And so if we have any watches, warnings, or advisories in effect, you will see those listed on the side and then on the map. Across the top of our webpage, let me scroll down just a little bit. These links at the very top goes to the national National Weather Service. So you will see the United States weather, the weather maps, but across the Marianas and Micronesia region, you will be interested in this subsection of menus. Now for the latest tropical cyclone information, just hover over the current hazards. You will see tropical cyclones. That is where probably most people will be most interested right now. You can also get to the tropical cyclones page by hovering over the forecast, and then you've got all the various forecasts from the public, the island forecast, the marine forecast, coastal waters, that's for the Marianas, East Micronesia and West Micronesia, and then of course tropical cyclones. So let's navigate over to the tropical cyclones page, and so bear with us as the internet is taking its time. The typical graphics that we are quite used to are going to be found in this gray box. This is what we've seen for years, the various forecast tracks. So let's just go on into it, and we'll see the cone of uncertainty that indicates where 2/3 of the time the center of a tropical cyclone stays within that area, although there are occasions where the center could venture out. And noting all those little bobbles we've seen the past 12 hours, it's still well within that cone. So that's some really good forecasting. And so the forecasts do come out of the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, and they've been communicating greatly within their prognostic reasonings, just really giving us their thoughts about what they're seeing in the forecast, the potential for intensification. Now these hashed areas, that is indicating the potential swath, the expanse of where we could see tropical storm force winds exceeding 39 miles per hour. So the worst conditions are not just at the center. There are hazardous conditions far from the center. For some of the probabilistic graphics that we have been introducing this year, just click on that next link below, and then you can definitely see the map farther down, the various graphics and these hyperlinks across the top. And then you just select those, and you can see those wind speed probabilities, tropical storm force wind speed probabilities, and just scroll down, and there you have it. So take time to get familiar with the web page. And like I said, all of our forecasts are updated routinely. Whether that is our official forecast output is on the web page, and then social media is a supplemental venue for really force multiplying our forecast information. And I see Landon pointing at something, and so I want to attempt some mind reading, and I think Landon is seeking these papers, so I'm going to take over the camera for him.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just signaling you to grab the papers and be ready to read those. But yeah, as we wrap this up, we just want to recap this latest on the 1 o'clock storm information on Typhoon Bolaven as it's making its approach to Rota. Again, this is probably going to be a near miss or a direct hit of the island of Rota. Do you have the satellite? I wanted to see that satellite loop or radar loop. That would be good. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, this may be a direct hit for the island of Rota. So if you're joining us late into this broadcast, Rota may be feeling the full brunt of the system. Good news for Guam, we're not going to have all the typhoon force winds or even the severe tropical storm force winds, but we're on the outer fringe of those tropical storm force winds. What we're seeing right now, that's going to be what we're feeling for the next 6 to 8 hours. It will probably get a little bit more windy and gusty out there, especially with the rain bands that are going on around our building and across the island. These rain bands are going to fill in. It's still going to get a little bit closer, so stay ready and prepared for that. Tinian and Saipan, not looking too bad up there. Farther to the north, a lot of the rain is to your south, but we're going to still see some heavy showers spiraling into you from time to time with those gusty winds. So be ready for that. Do not let your guard down. But the folks on Rota, again, if you're watching us from Rota, stay put because you're going to be feeling the maximum brunt of the system as it passes just to your north, or maybe even clip the northern half of Rota, including the airport area. So stay tuned for that. Again, if you have a period of calm weather, calm winds, that would be the eye passage. So stay put, stay in your safe shelter because the other side's going to come spiraling around pretty quick, and you do not want to be caught off outside of these Category 1 typhoon winds. So just to recap, 1 o'clock, advisory number 13, that storm was located at 14.0 north, 146.0 east. It was moving northwest at 290 degrees at 15 miles per hour. Based on our radar indications, it looks like it may be slowing down and drifting a little bit more toward the west of the official Joint Typhoon Warning Center track. So we are watching that trend with this eye in our Doppler weather radar. This is what's showing us what's happening right there. At 1 o'clock, 50 miles east-southeast of Rota, 75 miles south-southeast of Tinian, 80 miles south-southeast of Saipan, and 90 miles east-northeast of Guam. Maximum sustained winds now at 80 miles per hour. And just a reminder, all of Guam is under a flash flood warning until 4:15 this afternoon. That's about another hour or so, just under an hour. That may be extended as conditions warrant, as these rain bands will continue spiraling in over Guam. Join us again later this afternoon as we may go live for one more last broadcast as Bolaven clears out of the region. Stay tuned to our Facebook page and our webpage, weather.gov/Guam. See you soon.